Good day, everyone. My name is Nicolas L. Pisnila Jr., a student of Sorsogon State College, and our subject is CE Laws and Ethics. By the way, I am going to present to you the continuation of my group, which is from the CIAP document 102. It is divided into it is divided in different section, and I will be discussing the section 6. By the way, as you can see in my background, there are different structures there. There are buildings, bridges, and etc. Before creating that structures, of course, there was an owner and of course the contractor. So this section 6 is focused to the relation of owner and the constructors. Paano nangyayari yung kontrata, and paano din yung payments, yung mga agreements, different agreements naka-involved dito sa section 6. So, to proceed, this section 6 is entitled Labor, Works, and Payments. By the way, this section 6 is divided into 4 article, I think. The article 19, 20, 21, and 22. The first article is the article 19, which is labor. In labor, it involves here the character of workmen. The contractor shall employ only competent and duly qualified professional technical personnel, foremen, mechanics, and workers to supervise or execute the work upon written request of the owner, etc. So, ang contractor dito yung involved magkuha ng mga worker na mag-work, of course, ng project. But it is stated here that the contractor shall remove from the site an employee who is careless or incompetent or obstructs the progress of the works, contrary to contraction, or conduct himself properly. So, ibig sabihin, kapag may workers na hindi na nakakatulong sa isang site o kaya sa isang project, ang one person na involved doon para responsibility is yung constructor. Siya ang magtatanggal nun. Yung owner is walang concern doon. Next, Article 20, which is work. Article 20 is divided into many parts. The first one is the methods and appliances. The contractor shall use such methods and appliances for the performance of the work as will ensure the completion of the work of the required quality within the completion time. So, for example, hindi naman natin magagawa yung project ng tao lang yung gumagawa. So, ang contractor ang isa sa mga may responsibilidad na mag-create ng mga different appliances. What is these appliances? For example, yung mga backhoe para mas mapabilis yung project, para mapatapos yung project sa natatakdang oras. The next, the 20.02, laying out of the work. All stakes and benchmark placed by the contractor in laying out the work and approved by the owner shall be carefully guarded and preserved by the contractor. Unless such stakes or marks are displaced or rendered useless, the carelessness or neglect of the owner or of his agents or employees, they shall be replaced by the contractor at his expense. So, sa laying out of the work, before creating the building or the structures, it must undergo layout of the work. As I observe, maski sa maliit na construction, kahit gumawa ka ng bahay, makikita mo muna dyan yung pag-layout. Na-observe ko doon yung ginagamit yung fishing rod para mag-layout ng work. So, pag nagalaw yan ng isa sa mga owner, wala dyan responsibilidad ng owner na ayusin yun or ibalik niya. Contractor pa din yung gagawa at aayos nun. Next, defective work. What is this defective work? Defective work that fails to comply with the contract is defective. Defective work shall be condemned by the owners upon discovery, and when such work has been condemned, it shall be immediately removed by the contractor and replaced in accordance with the drawing and specification. So, defective work. What is this defective work? For example, may nagawa yung mga workers na isang upuan pero wala siya sa drawing. Isang concrete na upuan, wala siya sa drawing. Hindi yun nasa drawing, wala sa plano. So, it's still defective. Kahit maganda yung pagkakagawa ng isang structure, it's still defective work kung wala siya sa plano at wala sa napag-usapan na kontrata. As one of the example nito is yung mga nakikita natin na maybe road na okay na, nadadaanan na but sinisira ng mga bako para ayusin muli o gawa ng palakihin or kaya yung level ng road sa daanan tinatama pa rin kasi yun ang naangkop sa plano. Okay. And after those, we come now to the inspection of work. Paano yan nag-work na inspection? The owner shall have access at all times to the work. The owner shall provide a sufficient number of inspectors while work is in progress to ensure its timely inspection. So, ang owner daw yung may nagpapagawa, may access siya sa lahat ng oras sa patrabaho. Siya rin ang magbibigay ng mga inspector para ma-check kung tama ba yung process na ginagawa ng contractors o kung walang corruption na nangyari. Owners na din ang may rights na gawin yon. Letter B. The contractor shall furnish without additional charge or all reasonable facilities, labor, and materials necessary for the convenient inspection and test that may be required by the inspectors. So, kung yung binigay ng owner na mga inspector, pag may na-request yun sa isang contractor na itong dapat gawin, ang contractor ay dapat sumunod doon at kailangan dapat mag-comply. Okay, next. The owner shall provide inspector authorized to witness the pouring of concrete. So, another na responsibility ng owner, mag-provide siya ng inspector para tingnan yung tama ba yung pagkakahalo or pagkaka-ratio ng aggregate, cement, and water para ma-ensure yung stability ng isang structure. Because in our calculation, right amount of ratio is very important in acquiring specific strength. So, it should be observed. Letter D. If the specification, the owner instruction, the laws or public authority requires any work to be specifically tested or approved, the contractor shall give timely notice to the owner. So, for example, sa isang construction may kailangang i-test, kailangang malaman ng owner yon. Failure na pag hindi na inform ng contractor, pag may nangyari man doon na bayaran, babayad doon ang contractor mismo. Kaya responsibilidad ng contractor na i-inform ang owner about sa isang project. Letter E. All inspection and test shall be performed as not to delay the work unnecessarily. But those inspection and test shall be performed to not delay. So, dapat yung mga test na yun na gagawin, hindi makaka-delay ng work. Ang contractor ang responsibilidad doon kung saan nyo dapat yun isingit, anong araw, tama. Para hindi maistorbo yung work. 20.05 Work during an emergency. The contractor shall perform any work and shall furnish and install all materials and equipment necessary during an emergency endangering life or property in such cases. Article 18.1 shall apply. So, from the first topic, it is clearly stated there, the Article 18.01, that it involved dapat yung safety ng mga workers. The contractor should ensure the safety of his workers. 20.06 Increase or decrease quantities of work. Adjustment in working drawings. What is this? Increase or decrease quantities of work. It is the adjustment in working drawings to suit field conditions which cannot be foreseen at the time of calling for bids. This is always happening. Hindi naman sakto palagi yung maybe there's a discrepancy din sa plano. Kaya kailangan yung contractor is ma-update niya yung owner kung ano man doon ang dapat baguhin. But the contractor shall be covered by a change order work done by the contractor without timely notice to the owner that an adjustment is required of contract price and completion time shall be at his expense. So, pananagutan na naman yung contractor. Kaya dapat mag-ingat yung mga contractor. 20.07 is part of Article 20 pa din, which is focus on work. Changes in the work. Letter A. Changes ordered by owner. The owner may at any time order extra work or make changes by altering, adding to, or deducting from his scope of work and within the general scope thereof, provided, however, that the resulting overruns or underruns from the quantities or cost in the bid do not exceed 25%. Such changes shall be ordered by the owner in writing. For example, yung owner may gustong ipagawa sa isang project, but it is already done or nabid na, gagawin na. Kung may changes man doon ay gustong ipagawa yung owner, hindi dapat siya lalagpas sa 25% in order to, pag lumagpas siya, kung tumagal man yung project because of the owner is the one who has a responsibility for it. Next. Letter B. Change of subsurface condition. If during the progress of the work, subsurface condition at the site materially different from those shown on the drawings or indicated in the specification or in any contract document are discovered or encountered, the attention of the owner shall be called to such condition before discovered. For example, sa isang construction may papalitan or may kailangang ayusin, ang contractor ay dapat in-inform palagi ang owner about doon. Kung hindi, ma-inform kung may magastusin doon, ang contractor pa din ang responsibility at siya ang magastos nito. C. Adjustment of contract. The work shall be executed under the condition of the contract. If changes under paragraphs A and B shall cause an increase or decrease in the amount due under the contract or in the time required for a manner of its performance unequitable, adjustment shall be made in the contract modified accordingly in the event that the work is increased by such changes. The contractor shall furnish proportion additional performance bond. Okay. Pag may adjustment of contract, it is clearly stated there that it should be follow the conditions. Yung napakita ko na kanina, kailangan na inform yung owner. Next is the value of extra work. The value of any extra work or change shall be determined by the owner in any one or more of the following ways. So, may mga extra work na tinatawag, mga additional services na binibigay ng contractor sa isang project. But, mapabayaran yun kung maridetermine yun ng owner sa pamamagitan ng by a lump sum acceptable to the contractor by unit prices either stipulated in the contract or subsequently agreed upon, provided the aggregate value of changes does not exceed 25% of the original contract price of the particular pay item. Yun, nabanggit ko na tong 25% kanina. Hindi dapat siya mag-exceed yan para double pa rin yung changes na gagawin or babaguhin sa isang project. By actual direct cost plus value added tax, if any, plus 15% for contracts, profit, and overhead. May tax na dinadagdag 15%. Letter E. Award of extra work to other contractors. In case any extra work shall be required in the proper performance of the work, in the contractor and the owner shall fail to arrive at any agreement as to the adjustment of contract price and or completion time, the owner may award such extra work to another contractor. For example, yung contractor hindi niya na nagagawa yung yung project niya na maganda. Ang owner may karapatan siyang humanap or maybe magdagdag pa ng isang contractor para mas mapaganda pa lalo o mas mapabilis pa lalo yung project. Ito yung ginagawa ng owner. 20.08 Claims for extra cost. If the contractor claims that any instructions by the owner of the drawings or specification issued after submission of bid involved a change, he shall give the owner written notice thereof within 15 days after the receipt of such instruction, drawings, or a specification as much as possible before proceeding to execute the work, except in emergency endangering life or property provided for in Article 18.01. For example, may mga nagastos na or may another dagdag na expenses para lang mas mapabilis yung project, ang contractor dapat ay magbigay ng resibo sa owner within the 15 days. Failure to send any receipt to the owners is not be granted by the owner to be refund. Hindi na siya babayaran sa contractor. So, there was a deadline. It's 15 days. But, if there was an emergency, for example, may life-threatening, may nahulugan sa workers, kailangan ng pagamutin bigla, may biglang expenses na mangyayari, pananagutan pa din yun ng isang contractor. So, immediately, kailangan na magbigay ng pera ng owner or contractor to save life. 20.09 Cleaning up at completion of work. The contractor shall at all times keep the premises free from accumulation of waste material or rubbish caused by his employees. Rubbish shall not be thrown from windows or other parts of the structures without the use of rubbish chutes at the completion of the work. He shall remove all temporary work, his rubbish therefrom, and all his tools, scaffolding, and surplus materials, and turn over the work for occupancy. For example, yung truck contractor is natapos na yung project, kinakailangan na yung mga hindi na doon kailangan sa plano or hindi na dapat yung mga waste, ng mga materials, kailangan malinis na yun. It is paid, bayad na yun at pinag-usapan na yun. It should be followed by the contractor that all the waste and material shall be cleaned properly. Okay, next. 20.10 Use of completed portion of the work. The owner may take possession of and use any completed or partially completed portion of the work, although the time for completing it or portions thereof may not have expired, but such taking of possession and use shall not be deemed an acceptance of any work not completed in accordance with the contract, neither shall it be deemed a waiver by the owner of the right to claim damages to delay in the completion of the work if such prior use increase the cost or delays the completion of uncompleted work or causes refinishing of completed work. The contractor shall be entitled to compensation or extension of time or both. For example, yung project is almost done, matatapos na. Ang owner pwede siya mag-request na kung pwede na to gamitin na kwarto for specific purposes nila. For example, yung building, kailangan na nilang gamitin but hindi pa siya totally tapos. Pwede mag-request yung owner. But yung ibang dapat hindi maapektuhan nito yung progress ng isang proyekto na hawak ng contractor mismo. Next is 20.11, parts pa rin to ng work. Substantial completion in its effect. There is a substantial completion when the contractor completes 95% of the work. So, matatawag na substantial completion ang natapos ng isang contractor kung 95% na ito ng plano. Madali na siya matapos. 5% na lang hindi pa natatapos. So, of the work. Provided that the remaining work and the performance of the work necessary to complete the work shall not prevent the normal use of the completed portion. So, as I mentioned earlier, kailangan hindi maapektuhan yung progress pa din ng tinatapos yung project, hindi maapektuhan ng na-occupy na ng owner yung isang building. Letter B, the approval by the owner of the contractor's billing for completing at least 95% of the work shall be deemed the owner's acknowledgement that the contractor has substantially completed the work, unless the owner can establish that the unfinished work prevents the normal use of the completed portion. It has the same idea. C, the owner may also issue to the contractor a written acknowledgement of substantial completion, which may be in the form of certificate substantial completion or equivalent document, but the date of this document shall not be controlling if substantial completion is shown to have been made in at an earlier date, unless the contractor accept the certificate without taking exception thereto in writing within 15 days from receipt. Self-explanatory. Next, notwithstanding paragraph A or yung kanina, the above equipment, fixtures, and utilities, collectively the facility furnished and installed by the contractor which the contract requires to be test run prior to acceptance shall be test run successfully before the work can be accepted as substantially completed. For example, ang isang project, for example, building, kung may mga tubo man yun o kaya mga electrical wirings, kailangang matest muna yun, or for example, yung isang project matatapos na and naka-install na doon yung electrical wirings, yung mga different fixtures, but hindi pa natetesting. In order to consider na 95% completed na yung isang work, it should be working. Yung lahat ng electrical, yung pipings, kailangan nag-work siya ng tama para ma-considered as substantial completed. Letter B, the owner shall without delay cause the test run out of the facility. Should the contractor be unable to completely install or furnish and test run the facility through no fault of his, the contractor shall automatically be entitled to an extension of completion time to the equal to the period of delay. Same idea with letter A. Yung owner magpapatest na pero hindi dapat siya makaka-delay ng work. Okay, next. The owner shall issue the contractor one or more list of defects found or discovered in the completed work, otherwise known as a punch list or list, which the contractor must receive from the owner not later than 30 days from date of substantial completion. So, for example, 95% na yung natapos and then may nakita yung owner na palpak sa ginawa ng contractor at hindi ito na-report sa loob ng 30 days. Pag lumampas ng 30 days, hindi na siya tatanggapin ng contractor or ang owner na mismo yung magpapagawa noon kung may mga depekto man na nakita sa project. Letter B, the owner may add to the punch list items but only as to corrective work on the items in the original punch list or list not later than 60 days from dates of substantial completion. So, pag may nakorek na yung owner, may kinorek man yung owner sa hindi na pinagawa ng owner sa contractor yung mga mali, tinama na yun ng owner. So, within 60 days dapat may report yun sa contractor para maybe yung expenses is ma-covered pa din para mabawi ng owner maybe. By the way, if you have a questions in my report, just type in the below. I'm sure meron dyan na available spot for questioning. Letter D, no liquidated damages for delay beyond the completion time shall occur after the date for substantial completion of the work. No liquidated damages. Letter B, if the targeted date of completion has arrived and the contractor cannot achieve 95% completion of the work due to the uncompleted facility caused by the owner's fault, negligence, or delay of the owner, the contractor shall be deemed to have achieved substantial completion provided the contractor has completed at least 95% of the work minus the uncompleted facility. For example, umabot na yung deadline para sa substantial completion, and then hindi pa din ito naabot ng contractor dahilan sa unnecessary delay na na-cause ng owner, dapat may formula na nasabi dito, the contractor has completed at least 95% of the work minus the uncompleted facility, and the contractor has completed the work required on the facility, but for that which is directly affected by the owner's fault, negligence, or delay. It can be considered as substantial completed pag pag may nagawa yung owner na delay doon. Susundin yung formula na 95% minus yung nabanggit kanina, yung uncompleted facility. Pwede pa rin mo-consider na substantially completed ang isang project. Letter E. The purpose of this article is to ensure that a contractor is paid for work completed and for the owner to retain such portion of the contract price, which together with the performance bond is sufficient to complete the work without additional cost to the owner. So, sinabi dito yung purpose nitong article. Purpose nito is para masigurado yung contractor is bayad sa kanilang ginawa. And then yung limitation ng owner din sa isang project at yung dapat gawin din ng contractor na pag-update sa owner ay dapat din nasusunod. Yun ang purpose nitong article 20. 20.12 Period of making good of known defects or faults. The expression period of making good of known defects or faults shall mean a period of not more than 30 calendar days calculated from the date of receipt by the contractor of the last item in the punch list submitted during the period provided in Article 20.11c, during which the contractor shall complete the corrective works. And 20.13 Making good of known defects or faults. The contractor shall execute at his own expense all works necessary for making good of known defects, imperfection, or faults where and thereafter accepted within the period stated in Article 20.12. So, in order para makakuha ng mas magandang result, responsibility din ng contractor na mag-add ng effort to get that perfect, or para maiwasan yung na-defect, makuha ang magandang kalalabasan ng isang project. 20.14 Special test and inspection. Special test, inspection, or approval not otherwise required in the contract, which the owner instruct the contractor to perform after the date of substantial completion, shall be treated as a separate work which shall be covered by a supplemental agreement. So maybe yung dun sa 95% na yun yung pag-test, hiwalay na siya sa usapan ng isang kontrata. For example, hindi na involved sa isang contract yung ganong pagtetest. Kailangan magkaroon ng supplemental agreement muna para sumunod yung contractor na mag-test at mag-inspect sa isang project. Kinakailangan nyo na may agreement pa din. 20.15 Acceptance of non-conforming work. If the owner accepts defective or non-conforming work instead of requiring its removal and correction, the owner shall issue to the contractor a change order to reflect a reduction in the contract price where appropriate by an amount not exceeding the value of unfinished work as determined in the breakdown of work. So, napaka madaling intindihin. For example, yung contractor is may nagawa siyang mali o hindi tama. Okay lang naman na ang owner na hindi na siya magsabi nun sa hindi na siya mag-conform, hindi na siya magpilit na papalitan pa sa contractor yung ginawa nila. Unless, ang gagawin na lang ng owner is babawasan na lang yung presyo nung bayad sa contractor. So, kailangan mag-ingat ng contractor para kailangan yung i-secure yung good quality of work in order to para yung payment maganda din. 20.16 Adjustment of prices. The adjustment of prices shall be determined on the basis of the original contract, unit prices of labor and materials, and such unit prices in effect. During the relevant period of work accomplishment, the contract price shall be adjusted not oftener than once a month due to increase or decrease of the direct cost of labor and materials of more than 5% of the original contract unit prices of the relevant item of work. The adjustment shall include the first 5%. So, adjustment of prices. Hindi natin maiwasan sa isang construction na karoon ng mga unexpected events which cause to pagtaas ng gastos, pagbaba ng gastos. Dapat once a month kailangan nating i-inform yung owner kung ano nga ang kalagayan ng paggastos noon, kung nasusunod ba yung sa kontrata o hindi. If not, it should be informed the owner, and if yes, it should be informed pa rin. But kailangan hindi dapat siya lalampas sa 5% ng original contract prices, or hindi siya bababa sa hindi siya lalagpas sa 5%. Pag lumagpas siya sa 5%, hindi na mismo yung problema yung labor and materials doon. Maybe meron ng corrupt sa isang construction site. Next is 20.15, acceptance of non-conforming work. Acceptance of non-conforming work. If the owner accepts defective or non-conforming work instead of requiring its removal and correction, the owner shall issue to the contractor a change order to reflect a reduction. Naulit na to. Okay, yun nga, kailangan kung ayaw nang papalitan, understood na yan. Adjustment of prices, okay, nabanggit ko din, naulit ko pala, I'm sorry. 20.17, payment and legal tender. Payments and money under the contract shall be made in the currency stipulated, and if it is not legally possible to deliver such currency, then in the currency which is legal tender in the Philippines. Understood, self-explanatory. So we come now to the Article 21, the time of completion of work. Notice to proceed when required. A notice to proceed shall be issued by the owner to the contractor only when the contract so provides. Premature commencement of construction shall be at contractor's risk, unless it is due to their mutual desire to have the contractor commence the work early and the owner gives the contractor express or implied authority to do so. So, kung may gusto kang ipagpatuloy na gagawin, kailangan nyo ng issue ng owner na ipagpatuloy na yung gagawin na yun, specific project na yun. Kailangan maghintay ng contractor, hindi dapat siya magagawa ng galaw ng hindi alam ng owner. But yeah. 20.02, completion time. The contractor shall complete the work in accordance with the contract within the period fixed therein and as adjusted due to changes both directive and constructive. Of course, kailangan pag may project, kailangan din palagi na matatapos yung project on or before the completion time, because ako as a student, it is very understood na kapag lumampas sa deadline, maaring may dagdag gastos na doon, maaring may mga papers na doon, may maano ka na sa paper, magiging illegal na yung building mo, paggagawa ng building. Kahit sa building permit, may range siya. Understood na yan. Next. 20.03, schedule of construction work. The contractor immediately after the contract has taken effect shall submit for approval a construction schedule in form acceptable to the owner indicating the approximate date each pay item will be started and completed, the equipment to be used and number of men to be employed to complete in accordance with the schedule. The progress of the work shall be at a rate sufficient to complete the work in a acceptable manner within the completion time. Maybe yung schedule ng pagtatrabaho is dapat na monitor din ng isang contractor to achieve the completion time. Kaya sa ibang construction is merong overtime na tinatawag kasi they are rushing to get that completion time in the right time. That's the meaning of that. Letter B. In case of slippage, the owner may call for meetings with the contractor and other contractors involved to determine the possible cause contributing to the slow progress of the construction work. And if such slippage is due to the fault or negligence of the contractor, the owner may require the contractor to submit a catch-up schedule which shall be subject to approval by the owner. So, slippage o yung pagbabagal ng progress ng work, pag nangyari yan, ang owner ay magpapatawag ng meetings para mawarningan yung contractor na dapat gumawa sila ng paraan or malaman nila kung anong dahilan ng pagiging mabagal ng kanilang proyekto. If that's happen, magre-request yung owner sa contractor na dapat ito gawin nyo para magre-request muna yung contractor na ito dapat ang ginagawa and approve na yun ng owner kung papagawa nila yun sa contractor. Approval pa rin palagi ng owner yung kino-consider ng contractor. They are the one who are making a decision in a construction. 21.04 Extension of time. The contractor shall be entitled to an equitable adjustment of completion time where the contractor is obstructed or delayed in the prosecution or completion of the work by A. The act, neglect, delay, or fault of the owner or any other contractor employed by the owner on the work. What does it mean? The contractor shall be entitled to an equitable adjustment of completion time where the contractor is obstructed or delayed in the prosecution of the or completion of the work by yun. Ma-extend yung isang project kapag yung owner din siya nakatulong. For example, marami na siyang gustong parang sa construction siya na mismo yung gustong masunod at wala naman siyang alam sa technical and process. Nangingialam na siya. Pwedeng humingi yung contractor ng extension doon. And isabi niya lang kung saan yung owner nagkamali. Next. Third party strikes or lockouts or strikes by employees other than the contractor's employees or a lockout by an employer other than the contractor. It is the bypassing to the position, I think. May mga kumukuha na ng mga iba-ibang personal desire. Letter C. An act of God or force majeure. Understood? Unsuitable weather condition which render the work impracticable or impossible or which slow down the prosecution of the work. For example, may bagyo sa isang project. Pag may bagyo, hindi naman pwedeng gumawa yung mga worker. Pwedeng mag-endanger na yan sa kanilang buhay. So, accepted sa isang contractor na ma-delay or ma-extend yung project. But nowadays, as I observe, nagkaroon ng pandemic but the construction is still working. Hindi pa rin yun nadidelay. Patuloy pa din yung mga pag-build. Yung project ngayon, project ni Duterte na build. Di yun nadidelay. But another weather condition yung typhoon, lindol, acceptable doon. Para ma-extend yung project. Peace and other condition. What is this? For example, may war, may giyera sa isang lugar. Nandun yung project mo ng contractor. Madidelay yun. Hindi naman pwedeng makipagsapalaran yung mga worker doon sa site na may nagkakaroon ng giyera. Endanger yung life nila doon. Pwede rin ma-extend yung completion time. Changes ordered or authorized by the owner or authorized under the contract and delay authorized by the owner pending arbitration of an unresolved dispute between the owner and the contractor. The contractor shall be entitled to substantiated prolongation costs only in respect of A, F, and G, and D when changes of variation by the owner cause the works to be executed in a period of inclement weather condition which is different from the envisaged at the bidding stage. So, yung mga nabanggit kanina, yun dun ibig sabihin dito sa letter each kailangan nag-respect siya dyan or naka-anchor. 21.05 delay in completion of the work. It is understood that time is an essential feature of the contract. Upon failure of the contractor to complete the work within the completion time, the contractor shall pay the owner liquidated damages in the amount stipulated in the contract as indemnity. Yun nga sinasabi ko na kapag hindi na-comply ng contractor yung completion time, bawat araw doon na lumilipas ay may katumbas na kabayaran sa owner. It is very important for the contractor to finish the project within the completion time in order to avoid giving such payments to the owner. Okay. Owner may deduct from any sum due to the contractors the amount which has accrued as liquidated damages. For example, yung na-delay yung oras ng completion time. Yung owner, yung ibabayaran niya, yung minus niya na yun sa babayaran niya sa contractor. Yun yung isa sa mga consequences kapag hindi natapos yung completion time. So, okay. Understood na yung sa baba. Next. Article 22. This is the last article covered in section 6, which is labor payments and yun. Payments. Breakdown of contract amount. Except in cases where unit prices form the basis for payment under the contract, the contractor shall within 15 days from the receipt of notice proceed. So, parang naka-anchor din dun sa mga past topic nito yung dapat 15 days kung may binili man yung isang contractor na materials or kay additional na expenses doon sa isang project, kailangan within the 15 days yung resibo niya is may pakita niya sa owner mismo para ma-refund yun ng owner at maging considered na additional payment niya ng owner sa contractor. 22.02 Request for payment. The contractor may submit periodically but not more than once each month a request for payment for work done. Importante din to pala. So, every month, yung natatapos doon, kailangan palang bayaran na ng owner. But, in order to pay that by the owner, the contractor is required to submit a payment request to the owner sa natapos na trabaho. 22.03 Authorized deduction from value of completed work. The owner may deduct from any payment due to the contractor for the estimated cost of defective work not remedied, the amount of substantiated and unpaid claims by the subcontractors, the amount which has accrued in liquidated damages. So, ang pwedeng ibawas ng owner yung babayaran niya sa contractor kapag may mga depektong sa nagawa yung contractor sa project na hindi naman ginawa ng paraan para ayusin. Ibabawas yun ng owner na payments niya equivalent in terms of money. Ibabawas yun para sa cost na nagawa ng contractor. 22.04 Condition relative to payments. The owner shall estimate the value of work accomplished by the contractor using as basis the schedule stipulated in the breakdown of work and corresponding value. Such estimate of the owner of the amount of work performed shall be taken as the basis for the compensation to be received by the contractor. This is the responsibility of owner, which is estimating the cost of his or her project that is given to the contractor. So, yun, i-compute nila yun and then babayaran sa contractor. And hiwalay na dito yung usapan sa pang mga depekto. Nabanggit ko na yung kanina. 20.05 Owner's action on request for payment. Within 30 days after a receipt or of request for payment from the contractor, the owner shall pay the amount as certified. The 30-day period shall be inclusive of the period required in evaluating and certifying the contractor's accomplishment. So, within the 30 days, ang owner ay i-check niya, i-compute niya yung mga gastos, kung ilan ba dapat yung bayaran niya sa contractor mismo. If hindi to natupad ng 30 days, maybe the contractor can file any case, a case to the owner itself kasi hindi niya natupad yung 30 days na rules and regulation na dapat alam niya na yung babayaran niya sa mga oras na yan. Next is 22.06, payment of unpaid labor, subcontractors, and suppliers. The contractor shall pay punctually all workmen employed by him on the project at not less than such rates are provided by existing laws. He shall also pay promptly all materials purchased by him, equipment used by him on the project, and all taxes due for him. He shall remit as required by law all amounts legally required to be withheld from the salaries or employees or workmen. So, lahat ng gasto sa isang project, ang contractor na doon ang magbabayad ng mga workers, yung facilities na ginamit, yung tax, yung backhoes, mga different, yun ang magbabayad doon. Yun ang contractor na. 23.07 of payments over 90%. No payment shall be made in excess of 90% of the contract price unless a statement sworn to before any officer duly authorized to administer oaths is submitted by the contractor to the effect that all bills for labor other than current wages and all bills for sub-materials have been duly paid by the contractor and his subcontractor, if any, excepting only such bills as may be enumerated in such sworn statement. The contractor shall render the owner free and harmless from any claims and payments of such bills and shall indemnify the owner the cost of defending himself against such claims. Next is 22.08, other requirements before final payment. So, dito masabi yung mga iba't ibang requirements para sa final na babayaran ng owner sa contractor. The contractor shall submit, aside from those which may be provided in the contract, the following as applicable before final payment is made. Certificate of final building occupancy unless such certificate cannot be obtained through no fault of the contractor. Aside from mga certificate na nabanggit doon, kailangan pa din magpasa ng contractor ng certificate of final building occupancy. Next is certificate of final inspection of electrical, telephone, and sanitary. And yon, hindi dapat lang mag-estimate lang yung contractor ng mga pera na binayaran niya. Kinakailangan pa din na mayroon pa din itong certificate na patunay na pina-inspect niya ito sa mga professional din na tao. For example, yung payment niya sa sanitary, payment niya sa electrical wiring, kailangan may specific person or professional na mag-check doon para ma-qualify yung masabi na yung ginastos ng isang contractor ay tama. So, yun ang requirements pa rin na kailangan ma-acquire ng contractor para bayaran rin ng owner. Next is C, another original and 3 sets of prints of as-built drawings of electrical, sanitary, gas, telephone, and mechanical works. If such works are written, the scope of the contract as-built drawings are the working drawings showing the system and actual location of outlets, picture services, and equipment that were installed. Yung plano. 3 copies of directory of panel boards and list of circuits. Yun yung sinasabi ko, dapat may mga copies din, may mga kailangan yung contractor is maingat din sa mga paghawak ng mga papeles para may mga future evidence na ito yung babayaran nyo owner. So, being a contractor, it should be maingat dapat sa mga papel. Next, 3 copies of instruction and manual for operating and maintaining of Fixtures and equipment. Next. 3. Copies of keying schedule. G. A release of lines arising under the contract as provided in Article 34.01. The sworn statements required in Article 22.09. Okay. 22.09 Acceptance and final payment. Whenever the contractor notifies the owner that the work under the contract has been completely performed by the contractor, the owner shall proceed to verify the work, shall make the final estimate, certify to the completion of the work, and accept the same. So, kapag nagsabi na yung contractor, sinabi niya na tapos na, ito na, tapos na yung projects namin, one of the responsibility of the owner, of course, is to check, verify if it is true, kung totoo nga yung sinasabi ng contractor, and i-check niya yung mga dapat na babayaran niya sa contractor. And other topics, other concern that yung mga defect ay nabanggit ko na kanina. So, ang dito ba i-consider lang yung karapat dapat or katumbas na babayaran ng owner sa contractor. 22.10 Corrections of work before or after final payment. Bago yung final payment, kung may mga correction man yung owner, dapat sinasabi niya na sa contractor or dapat na-inform na yung contractor para yung contractor is mag-act dito, malaman niya na. So, connected din, parang this is anchored only to the past topics, yung mga nabanggit kanina. Yung, for example, pag may defective, kailangang na-inform na yung contractor para gawan nyo ng paraan ng remedies. But kung hindi naman makakagawa ng remedies, hindi na rin naman yun babayaran ng owner. Something like that. 22 point, the last one, this is the last one. 22.11 Release of retention. Subject to Article 33.0 in 01 herein, the amount retained by the owner under the provision of the contract shall be released not later than the expiration of the period of making good of known defect as provided in Article 20.12 upon the posting of contractors. 30 days yung nabanggit ko na 30 days dapat na ano na yung na-evaluated is the project is already evaluated by the owners para ma-estimate na yung cost. So, yun. Subject to Article 33.01. It will be discussed after this. Susunod yun sa mga ibang report. So, to sum up, my conclusion is in Section 6, ang na-point out dito is yung relation ng contractor and then yung owner self. Dito na-involve yung maybe sa labor na involved lang dito yung workers, yung dito na ma-involve yung engineer, something like that. This is the rules and regulation between the contractors and the owners. Yung dapat sinusunod ng contractor, yung dapat din sinusunod ng owners. Both of these two people or person na dalawa tong organization or may mga limitation din to sa kanilang power. Hindi porket owner ka, siya na yung dapat masusunod sa lahat ng mga patakaran sa isang construction. Hindi rin porket contractor ka, wala nang karapatan yung owner na mangialam sa patrabaho, magbabayad lang, hindi ganon. May mga sinusunod na rules at naka-stated din dito sa Article Section 6 which focus on labor, works, and payments. So maybe failure to acquire those articles above, it can cause to maaring magkaroon ng kaso, maybe something like that. Delikado din. So, ayun, kailangan masunod ang lahat ng yun ng both ng contractors and owners. And pinaka-ideya is lang dapat yung kung ano man ang mga ginagawa ng contractors na another payment ay kinakailangan lang na-inform dapat yung owner. And then yung owner din, kailangan kung may gusto siyang ipapalit na as soon as possible, dapat sabihan niya na yung contractor para hindi mag-cause ng delay sa project or hindi, for example, malaki na yung malaki na yung nagawa tapos papapalitan pa, hindi dapat gano'n. Kailangan yung owner is sabihan kaagad din yung contractor para sa ikakabuti ng dalawa and para rin sa and of course para sa ikakabuti ng project. So that's all. Thank you. Again, this is Nicolas L. Pisanilla Jr., a BEC 3B student, and thank you.
Section 7, Contractor, Separate Contractors, Subcontractors Relation. Can the owner have separate contractors with other contractors? Yes. Sabi dito sa Section 7, Article 23, Separate Contractors with other contractors, the owner may perform work outside of the contractor's scope of work or award separate contractors to other contractors. If the contractor claims that delay, damage, or additional cost is involved as a result, the contractor shall make such claim as provided in the contract. The owner shall provide for the coordination of the work performed by the owner and or each separate contractor with the work of the contractor. Next, Article 24, Contractor, Separate Contractors Relations. Sa storage of materials and work coordination, the contractor shall, to the extent possible, afford other contractors reasonable opportunity for the introduction and storage of their materials and the execution of their work, and shall properly connect and cooperate in the owner's effort to coordinate his work with that of other contractors so as to minimize interference or obstruction in the progress of the work performed by each of them. Since the owner can have separate contractors with other contractor, kailangan bigyan ng contractor ang iba pang contractor ng pagkakataon para alamin ang mga materyales at bigyan din sila ng storage para sa kanilang materials at pagpapatupad ng kanilang trabaho. Sabi din kailangan makikooperate ng contractor sa owner para maiugnay ang trabaho sa iba pang contractor para sa progress ng trabaho. Sa cutting, patching, and digging naman, the contractor shall do all cutting, fitting, or patching of his work that may be required to make its several parts come together properly and fit it to receive or be received by work of other contractors shown upon or reasonably implied by the drawings and specification for the completed structure. Any cost caused by defective or ill-timed work shall be borne by the party reasonable thereof. The contractor shall not endanger any work by cutting, digging, or otherwise, and shall not cut or alter the work of any other contractor save with the consent of the owner. Next, defective work by separate contractors. If any part of the contractor's work depends for proper execution or results upon the work of any other contractor, the contractor shall inspect and promptly report it to the owner. His failure to inspect and report it shall constitute an acceptance of the owner-contractor's work as fit and proper for the reception of his work, except as to defects which may develop in the other contractor's work after the execution of the contractor's work. To ensure the proper execution of his subsequent work, the contractor shall verify work already in place and shall at once report to the owner any discrepancy noticed between the executed work and the drawings. Kung ang work ng other contractor pwedeng makaapekto sa work ng contractor, kailangan rin i-inspect or i-check nito ang trabaho ni other contractor and shall report it to the owner lalo na kung may problema sa work ng other contractor. Kasi pag hindi niya ito na-inspect at na-report agad sa owner at nagkaroon ng problema sa work ni contractor, ay di niya pwede ipasa ang mali or problema sa other contractor. Responsibility na ito ng contractor, hindi ng other contractor. Kaya para maging maayos ang execution ng project, i-check din ang work ng other contractor. Next, damage caused by contractor to separate contractors. Should the contractor cause damage to the work of any separate contractor, the contractor agrees to relieve the owner of any liability which may arise therefrom. You, as a contractor, kapag may na-damage ka sa other contractors na kinuha ni owner, ibig sabihin, liable ka sa owner kung ano man ang pwedeng mangyari sa work. Next, damage caused by separate contractors to contractor. Should any separate contractor cause damage to the contractor's work, then the owner shall hold harmless the contractor in respect thereof. Dito naman, kung ang other contractor na kinuha ni owner may na-damage sa work mo, ibig sabihin kailangan hindi ka sisihin ni owner at hindi madamay sa pagkakamali ni other contractor. Next, Article 25, Subcontracts. General, it is understood and agreed that no portion of the work shall be sublet or subcontracted without the owner's consent. However, any part thereof or any specialty work therein may be sublet or subcontracted subject to the provision of Article 25.02 and 34.03. The consent of the owner to the contractor's engagement of a subcontractor by itself shall not create any contractual relation between the subcontractor and the owner. As the contractor having an agreement with the owner, you cannot pass on the contract to other contractors given to you by the owner without the latter's consent. If ever na pumayag ang owner na magkaroon ng subcontractor, walang contractual relation between the owner and the subcontractor. Last, contractor's responsibility. The contractor agrees that he is as fully responsible to the owner for the acts and omissions of his subcontractors and the persons either directly or indirectly employed by them, as he is for the acts and omissions of persons directly employed by him. Kung magkaroon man ng failure or problem dahil sa subcontractor, responsibility ito ng contractor sa owner since siya ang may agreement sa owner.
And that is all for my report for today, and I hope you learn some of the information regarding sa civil engineering works. And I hope that may natutunan kayo. And thank you. God bless. Stay safe, guys.